Want to build your network? Do you want to build your career? Do you want to change jobs? Are you stuck? Are you looking for something else? We're going to talk about it today on Center Square. You got to own it, baby. So you can own your square. Hey, how you doing, everybody? I'm Pat Laurie. So happy that you joined me today on Center Square. Hey, listen, a lot of us are stuck in our jobs right now. A lot of us are going to work, we're punching the clock, we're saying, I don't know where the next job is or where my next career move is going to be. And you want to find out how you can be more strategic about where you want to go next. Because let's face it, this life, this one and only beautiful life that we have, only happens once a time around, right? And we want to make sure that we're getting exactly what we want. But the problem is people go about it all the wrong way. Well, here to talk about how we can have some shortcuts and strategies and actionable steps, I am so happy today to welcome Ted Fleming to the show. He is the lead of talent development at a Fortune 10 company. Ted, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
And a lot of people are, because let's look around what's going on in the workplace here. People are stuck, stagnating, not knowing what to do, right? What's going on, Ted?
Well, I think there are a lot of factors. Obviously, the pandemic caused a lot of people to be out of work, as well as just that fear and having safety. A lot of people that had jobs said, well, I'll just stay put right now. So there's that. And then just in general, a lot of times people get caught up in the day to day, right? I just go to work, paying my bills. They don't take the time to think about how can I strategically and systematically find exactly what I want.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so happy that you're joining us today, because you have written this incredible book, which basically is like the Bible of and the blueprint, right? And how to get what you want out of your career. And I think it's just so important right now to let people know that there is a way. But do you think, Ted, that a lot of people feel like, I'm never going to get that next position, or I don't know how to get from here to there?
Yeah, I think a lot of people do feel that way. They know what they want in their head, or sometimes they need some help thinking through that. But like anything else, you need a blueprint, you need strategies. And that's what I'm hoping to provide here. And that's what I've done for well over 20 years for people.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about it. You have devised a 7-step strategy to get people moving in the right direction with an actual plan. So, let's talk about what are the 7 steps. The first one is the job exploration, right?
That's
The
right, job
summary.
exploration summary, right. And so these tools you could I use for reference. So the job exploration summary is about exploring the possibilities. Pat, what I've found is a lot of people think way too narrowly about the possibilities. Like if I'm a teacher, I'll always be a teacher. If I'm a nurse, I'll always be a nurse. And so what that tool does is it helps people expand their aperture and think about the possibilities more broadly. And quite simply, it's focusing on the industry, the companies you're interested in, and the roles you're willing to explore.
Okay, so I love that you said that, because I know plenty of people who say, like, well, I've only been in the pharmaceutical industry, so I don't know how I would possibly go into, another industry that really isn't related. But people should start thinking about their career in a different way, right? So what's the next step? What can they do?
So, what I ask people to do, like I said, it's okay if you don't know. It's what are you willing to explore? I stop asking people, what do you want to do? Because I see the fear that comes over their face. So, what I
Overwhelming,
do,
right?
that's right. So, what I have people do, and the tool goes through this, but basically, what you want to do is you want to connect a role with an industry and a company. And the companies are really just pictures, an image of the type of environment you want to work in. So you say, I'm interested in exploring this role within this industry for a company like. And then once you do that, the next step would be to talk to someone, to network with people that work in that industry, people that work for that company, or people that have that role, and find out what does it take to work there today.
Yeah, and I also in your book, I love how you had this example of how when you go and professionally speak to children, right, or to teens to
Yes.
ask them what they want to be when they grow up, this exercise that you have them do, and it's getting your brain to think in a different way, which I found so interesting. Tell us a little bit about that exercise that you do with kids.
Right. So just imagine, and a long time ago, I was a long-term substitute teacher. So I'm used to those blank stares and, I'm bored and what are you going to do? And so here's this guy going to talk to them about careers. So instead, what I have them do is they get out a piece of paper, they form 2 or 3 person teams. And I say, I want you to write down and identify at least 30 companies that you see in this room. And they're like, what are you talking about? And then I'll say, that chair, someone made that chair, someone made that desk, someone made that computer, look at the lights, they have names on them. And then it becomes a competition. And what they realize is right in that room, they have well over 30 different companies. And then I ask them, because a lot of them have smartphones now, look up those companies. What does LG stand for? Who's GE, right? Who's Sylvania, or all these things, and look it up. I say all these people are hiring. All these people have jobs, and that opens up the possibilities for it.
I love it because you have to be able to use your imagination. And I think people, when they say like, I don't know what I want to do, or I don't know what I want to do when I start out, or even what I want to do if I'm mid-career and I'm just feeling completely dissatisfied. So how can you get noticed in your current job if you want to get ahead, but you just don't even know where to start?
Right. A lot of people, and what I found is people just don't know what to call it. So
Mhm.
even though people may not know the job or the role, they can articulate what they enjoy doing. So we start there. What do you enjoy doing? What are you passionate about? And also, what are you good at? Look at your resume. Give me your top 2 or 3 accomplishments that you're proud of. Now let's dissect that. What did you do to achieve that accomplishment? And then finally, we say, you ask the question, who else needs that value? Who else would appreciate that? So if you're great in sales, who else needs a good salesperson? If you're great at operations or project management, what other company needs that? And that's how I make those connections.
So you don't necessarily need direct experience in an industry to be able to jump to that industry.
Right. That's what we call the transferable skills, right? And so
Mhm.
one of the problems, that's the second thing. So if the first thing is exploring the possibilities, the second biggest challenge people have is communicating their value, right? And so they say, well, I've only done this at this company for this long. And instead, you need to dissect what you know how to do into skills. And those skills are transferable to other roles and other industries. And then you ask that magic question, what do you call the person that? So, what do you call the person that? Fill in the blank. And then you say, what do you call the person that does that in your organization? And they may say, well, we call that a project manager. You say, great, I want to be a project manager. Or they might say, oh, well, we call that a nurse here. Great, I want to be a nurse. So that's how you make that connection for people.
Yeah, and I think that you're trying to get people to also change the language even in their resume, right? And to think in a different way.
Yes, that's very important because what people tend to do, and it's very natural, the longer you've been at a company or the longer you've been in a role, you start to speak the jargon, right?
Yeah.
Jargon. I remember when I first got into
Pushback.
right. People started talking about hypos. And I'm like, hypos? We have hypodermic needles around here? And they're like, no, no, no. That stands for high potential. So we all
Oh,
speak our own language. And so what you want to do is to be attractive to the widest audience. You want to go back through your resume and go back through your accomplishments and back through your skills and state those in a generic way that everyone can relate to it.
Got it. All right, we have a question here. Oh, from our friend Jim Tully. What is the best way to get noticed by the higher ups in your company? Yeah, getting that, the eyeballs on you. How does that happen? What can you do?
Right. Well, there's actually three ways. One is performance, and that's the one everyone thinks about, right? It's like if I do a good job, the higher ups will notice me, and that is one way. But there are two other important ways. The second is image, which is what's your image, and what you ask people is how do others think of me? The other way to say it is, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? So you have to figure out what your image or your brand is. And
Yes.
the short story I tell people is, you're not in the room when they give you a raise. You're not in the room when they decide to give you a promotion. You're not in the room in a lot of things. So what is in the room is your image. So that's the second way. You work on that image. And the third way is exposure, is if you want to get noticed by those higher ups, are you in a room with them? Are you working on a project with them? Do they get to see you? And if they do, then that's how you'll get noticed.
I
Thanks
like
for the
that.
question, Jim.
Do a good job. Always think about your brand and be around the people that you want to be around. All right, so that's good. That is good advice. Now, I'm really curious as to you've had a very interesting background, and I think that I've heard you say that you've come from a family of teachers and preachers, and I think that you are just a lifelong learner, which is incredible. And
Yes.
you have studied this, and you've been in different industries, financial services. You've been a teacher, right? So, tell me a little bit about why is now the important time for this book?
I think it's a great time for this book. And a lot of younger people already see this. Long gone are the days, right? Remember our parents, they say, you know, work hard, find a company, work there for 30 or 40 years, get the gold watch. That is gone. You're in charge of your career. You need the tools, and you need to be able to market yourself over and over again to new industries, new companies, new people. And so that's why this book is important to me. And that's why it's helped a lot of people, because it's just given them the tools to say, hey, I need to dust that off again. How do I interview well again? How do I market myself? How do I network again better? And then that's the way you manage your career and navigate your career.
Yeah, and I so appreciate that because I was growing up, I was told the same thing. You're going to get that one job, you're going to work your way up. In fact, my first job out of college was at a public relations firm on Madison Avenue in New York City. And I was a glorified typist. And let me tell you how miserable in that job I was. And I only stayed in that job for 2 months because I said, the heck with this. I'm getting out of this and going into TV. And I don't care if I have to quit my full time job and work for free. I'm going to do it. And that's what I did. But it's sort of like sparking that reinvention in you and noticing that if you're feeling dead inside, well, you got to pay attention to that, right?
Right. And not only that, not everything is about getting a new job. And I recognize that. And often when I give webinars, I ask people to raise their hand if they've been in the same job for the last 3 years. And the majority of hands go up. So what's important is, even if you stay in the same role, your job evolves. And if you aren't a lifelong learner, it'll get past you. When I was younger, I was the best at software and designing things and writing routines. Now, there's been so many technology, innovation since then. You have to keep up. So even to keep your same job, you constantly have to invest in yourself.
Yeah, you do. And, it can be a little daunting too. But if you're not staying ahead of it, you're really not going to move ahead. Now, what about people that want to get into like the executive role? Any
Yeah,
advice there?
the executive role, what I tell people, the analogy I use, it's like a club. All right. So a club, and they have to let you in. Think of
Ooh,
getting
like a
into a
tennis club?
exactly. That's right.
And I just said that because I know you play tennis.
That's right. I play tennis. That's right. And I'm missing my partner, Jim. I know he's out there. That's right. So the idea is, it's like getting into a club. And so when you think of getting into a prestigious club, usually you can't do it directly, right? You get recommendations from friends. That's how you get into executive ranks. You need other people to speak on your behalf. You need other people to talk about the value you would bring to the organization. And that's how you do it. And so, what the biggest thing that you can do and the change that occurs is when we're younger in career, we talk about what opportunity can the organization give us? How can I get promoted? When you get to the executive level, you have to say, this is how I'll add value to the organization.
Such an important distinction. You're right, because when you're younger, it's like it's all about me, me, me. I want to go up, 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 and
Right.
then and then it's sort of like that. You get over the wall, and then you give back. I really love that. So okay, now we have one more question here from. All right, so how can you tell who I can trust internally? Oh, that is so important.
Hmm.
Trust. The trust factor. Yes. How do you build your network of trusted advisors within your company?
Here's what I tell, and thank you for that question. That's a great question. And you find out whether someone is a mentor, right? We're looking for mentors. Those are usually people that help us do our job, our current job very well, or coach us. But what you're really looking for is sponsors. Who's going to speak up on your behalf and use political capital? And here's how you can tell the difference. You go to someone, and I might say, hey, Pat, I think I'm interested in running a TV station one day. What do you think I should do? How might I get there? And if Pat says to me, Ted, keep doing what you're doing, keep working hard, that's not someone you trust. Because what happens is if Pat were really a sponsor or a mentor, she'd say, Ted, you've got to get more sales experience, or you need some more production experience, or you need to diversify your experience and maybe go work in a smaller market first. So they'll give you specific actions that you can take and they'll introduce you to people. And if they don't do that, they're not a trusted source. So that's how you tell.
Yeah, it's kind of like those people that sort of are at a networking meeting and they're looking, they're having a conversation with you, but they're looking over there at somebody else that they've got their eyes on, right? You want to run away from those people real fast. I'm going to tell you that right now, because those people just, maybe don't have your back, or maybe just don't have the time, or maybe they're just, they don't just, they're just not that type of person. And not everybody is, even if a person is in a big role at the company. Not everybody can be your mentor, can be your trusted advisor. So let me ask you here, you know, what can you do to currently be happy in the position that you have, to find more happiness right where you are?
All right. To find happiness where you are, let's say the short answer is do your same job at a higher level. So let's
Mm.
say you're a very good accountant, but you don't want to be CEO or CFO one day. You're happy being an accountant. What you can do is then you can serve as a consultant to others. So you ask your boss, how can I use my skills to consult with others? Then you might say, how can I teach others? Now I want to mentor and guide and coach the next generation of accountants. So that's what you can do within your organization. If you want to go further, then you can say, well, I want to join some associations of accountants in my region or in the nation and be on panels and speak at conferences. You're doing your same job, but now it's more fun because you're influencing other people in your industry. And then that can go all the way up to the world. So that's how you can never, you don't have to be stagnant in your job.
I love that there's so many different ways. I mean, you might actually like your position, but might want to have more visibility, and that's just the perfect way. But what about when it comes to culture? Now, we're in a strange situation because most people have been working out of their homes, and not too many corporations are back with the full workforce in person. So let's talk about culture and what companies are going to have to do now to attract people when the culture might be, hybrid.
Yes, and all my peer organizations are grappling with this now, and CEOs, trust me, they are calling each other and saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" So yes, that is happening. So a couple of myths I want to burst. One is networking is actually easier now than it was before. A lot of people feel like, well, I'm at home now, I'm not in the office. How am I going to network? How are people going to recognize my work? What I'm finding is it's actually easier because people are more comfortable with these types of platforms, more comfortable with LinkedIn, they're more comfortable with Zoom or FaceTime or whatever it is. So you can reach out to other people and do that. And then the other is just put in the time. Make sure that you save snippets of time so that you're reaching out and building your network. That's what's important. Are you talking to people in your industry? Are you talking to peers?
Exactly. And I do agree with you. I think that it is easier because I think people are more accessible now because, maybe they're going to, they're at their living room. They're like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to be more open. So they're not in that, I don't want to say ivory tower, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So they're more accessible. And then there's also company events, virtual events, and maybe it's not as intimidating if you're on a virtual event because you can be there, you can be present, your face can be seen, and maybe you're just observing, but you're within the presence of people versus like a very large networking event where you can't get anywhere near the person. There's always the chat room and everything else. So I think that's kind of a cool thing as well.
Yeah.
Um, so tell me a little bit about, because I'm curious. I'm writing a book as well right now, and this, by the way, what an incredible resource. And as I flip through this book, it's not only it literally is like a Bible for.
I meant it to be that resource, yes,
Well,
that you
I'm
can
telling
go
you, this
back
is
to.
the research. You're going to go put it back on the shelf. You're going to take it out. You're going to look at it. You're going to say, wait a minute, how
Right.
do I do this? And I love it. But tell me about the process of writing this book. Did you enjoy it?
I really did, and that's because, and this is another advantage of the book, which is what I did is I took stories and took conversations that I've had with leaders over the years and just put them in the book. So the reason I wrote the book is because I got tired of writing on the whiteboard, okay, I'm going to do this exercise again. Oh, you're looking for a job or not sure how to network. Let me show you how to do that. And then now I have a reference for people. And so, for those of you that are interested in writing, I'll connect it to what I was mentioning before. It's a way, writing a book is a way to go from a subject matter expert to an industry influencer, right? So by
Mhm.
writing the book, I haven't changed, but now more people are exposed to my ideas. More people know my approaches to things, and that attracts people to you. So writing is also another way to expand your network and expand the possibilities. To give you a
Absolutely.
quick example, before I wrote the book on LinkedIn, I might have gotten 40 or 50 people that connect. After writing the book, that's now 300, 400.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I want to congratulate you because I know that it is no easy task. But I also, when I was reading your book, you talked about how you were always the guy like in the corner who was had his nose in books, reading, 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 reading. You're like, what exactly do you do at the company? No
What
one
do
knows
you
what you do
do?
at the
Yeah.
company, right? So now you can say, this is what I've done. What have you done for me lately?
That's right. That's right. But that is a good thing. I joke about it in the book, but I did have people question. I even had some bosses question, what are you doing? Why are you always reading? What are you doing early in the morning? Why is that important? And so the idea is that we all need to invest in ourselves. And so the question that what I've tried to lay out in the book is, where are you in your career? What is it that you need to do? Do you need to expand and look for new opportunities? Do you need to communicate better? Do you need to network better? Do you need to overcome barriers? And now you need to learn about that and then take charge.
Yeah, and there's even worksheets in the book where you can fill in the blanks and, get a better idea of where you're going, right? The factors to make you happier, what's going on. And I just want to, I'm going to read the 7 steps. So you have the job exploration summary, the constructive questions,
Right.
mapping your experience, networking quadrant, which is fascinating to me, leadership preferences survey, spheres of influence, and a development plan. And we don't have enough time to go through all of it, but where can people reach out? Where can people get this book? Tell us more.
No. So you can reach out to me via LinkedIn. Make sure reference this where you heard me. You also have my website, tedfleming.com. There, I give a brief overview of all of the tools, so you can watch a short video. You can also take the leadership assessment and understand your style and what that'll mean for the value you bring to an organization. And so those are some of the best ways to reach out. You can get the book where all great books are sold, as they say, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or my website.
Well, I am very proud of you, and I want to thank you because not only is it an incredible accomplishment that you wrote the book, but this book in particular is going to help so many people, whether you are starting your first job mid-career or thinking about transferring to another industry. You have laid it all out. You've given us the blueprint. And Ted Fleming, before we go, is there anything else that I didn't ask you that you think you want to mention? You want one takeaway from this interview?
I would say it's the networking. Don't be afraid to network. Start with your friends, then branch out and save time to do that, because networking is just the most effective way building relationships of getting what you want.
Thank you. And before we go, I'm going to give you an exact example of networking, what I did last week. So I was talking to someone interviewing for my book, and I said, we got into this conversation, and this woman says, I think I know Mel Robbins, because I said, oh, I really want Mel Robbins to, I want an interview with her. And so there you go. And if I didn't ask, and if I didn't put it out there, you would never, be led down a path that possibly could result in something that you really want.
There you go. That's how it works.
And don't be afraid, right? Ted, people are so afraid of
Yeah. So
networking.
start with the people you know. And then once you start with the people you know, they'll introduce you to the people that you don't know. You want in sales, we used to call those warm transfers, right? You don't need to do cold calling. You don't need to talk to strangers. That's why we hate networking.
Well, I'm one of the only people that does like to talk to strangers, but thank you so much for joining me today on Center Square, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
Wow. Oh my goodness. All right. Be sure to go to tedfleming.com to find out more about how you can really have the actionable steps, the tools, and the framework for you to move ahead in your career. Because I'm going to tell you right now that life is too short. Do not be unhappy at your job, career, or calling. I want you to get from the job to the calling. All right. I'm Pat Laurie, everybody. I'll see you next time on